everyone, I'm County Executive Joe Parisi, and I'm here today with Laura Hicklin, the Director of the Dane County Land and Water Resources Department, and we are at the Pheasant Branch Nature Conservancy. We've got a great show ahead. We're going to talk about this wonderful jewel in the middle of our community, where it's been, where it's at now, and future plans for this. So we really look forward. Laura, thank you so much for being with us today. It's going to be a great video.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Tell us a little bit, kind of maybe an overview of the Conservancy and what it all consists of and what it has to offer?
You bet. Pheasant Branch Conservancy is one of our gems in the Dane County Parks system. It's a collaborative project where Dane County, Wisconsin DNR, City of Middleton, and Friends of Pheasant Branch work together to protect and enhance this incredible resource. It was identified in the 1970s as an area worthy of preservation. Of course, much earlier than that, we need to understand and recognize that this was an area that was really important to the Native Americans, the wetlands, the high points. It's always been a really attractive resource that provides great habitat, food for wildlife and humans, and then of course Pheasant Branch itself and the wetland complex. So this is an area that drains and feeds right into Lake Mendota. About every day, approximately 2.6 million gallons of clean, fresh groundwater are bubbling up and flowing into the chain of lakes.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. And we're going to visit a spot that really is one of my favorite spots in the entire county because it almost feels otherworldly. It's the place where the water, that spring, does literally bubble up from the ground and you see it come up from the source. There's so many nice things like that to see here. There's prairie, as you mentioned, there are these hills with some beautiful oak trees. There's water. It's just this gem that provides so many benefits. I mean, we're so fortunate. So Laura, we're walking through kind of the edge of, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of the original part of the Pheasant Branch Nature Conservancy, and just off to our left is something we refer to as the Acre Property. And this is a purchase that we made a few years back, Dane County, of 160 acres from a farm that had decided to sell. And frankly, the land that was there was slated for residential development. And we were concerned about developing right next to this beautiful parcel because of the impacts that could have had both on runoff and our efforts at flood mitigation. And so we had the opportunity to purchase that land to make the Conservancy even larger. And we're in the process of restoring those lands right now to prairie and wetland, etc. Could you talk a little bit about the Acre Property and its significance and kind of what's going on there?
Yeah, you bet. So in 2023, we're just finishing year 3 of 4 years of habitat restoration. So we started with that purchase. The first thing we did was remove all of the old buildings from the farm or the former farm. And I do want to make the point that part of the job of the county and the Land and Water Department is to preserve agricultural land. And so we work hard to identify what areas need to be restored, and then how does that help preserve agricultural land further out. And I think the acre acquisition did both of those things. So we knew that farm wasn't the best location to be in agriculture. So we removed the buildings. We embarked in a really intensive wetland restoration project that runs right through the middle of that 160 acres. That work was completed and is functioning well. And now each year, the county, the Friends, and other partners work to plant 40 acres of prairie at a time. And so we have a cooperating farmer that's assisting us. One of the best land uses to have as you enter prairie restoration is agriculture, and specifically soybeans. So our cooperating farmer has been great.
So why is that a good thing?
It provides really good ground cover. It's going to help with weed suppression so that the prairie can get a head start when the native seeds start growing. And it leaves the soil kind of right in the prime condition to accept and help germinate those seeds. You don't have like corn stubble and other vegetative matter that might interfere otherwise. So we have it in soybeans. Then we do usually a winter seeding of prairie seeds. We wait for that to come up, and then staff, the Friends of Pheasant Branch and other volunteers work to foster that area for the first few years. It's pretty intense. So they're looking to make sure that the full diversity of species that were planted look like they're going to come up. For the acre acquisition, the county set a goal to plant what we call a platinum prairie. So we're striving to get anywhere from 75 to 100 different plant species in the prairie, which is great. Again, that provides a whole diversity of food and habitat options for insects and other wildlife. And each year we're going to tackle a different 40. And so by the end of 24, the entire 160 acres should be planted and looking a lot like the area that we're around right now.
That's great. So Laura, in addition to all of the benefits we've talked about from prairies and prairie restorations, one of the things people might not be familiar with is the ability of prairies to sequester carbon. And as you know, Dane County government has a goal of becoming carbon neutral in all of our operations by 2030. Could you talk to us a little bit about the role that prairies and prairie restorations that you're involved in will have in us reaching that goal of carbon neutrality?
You bet. So we're really hoping that the Land and Water Resources Department can make a big contribution in hitting those goals. Prairie is a native habitat here in Dane County. It provides year-round living cover. It has that deep root structure, and all of that adds up to mean that those plants are working for us around the clock to pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and store it deep in their root structure where it is trapped. And so the more prairie restoration we see in Dane County, the more carbon sequestration we have. And we've invested in carbon sampling equipment that's going to allow us to take soil borings so that we can document how that carbon sequestration is working over time and really make sure that what we think is happening is actually there.
That's great. And you know, we're talking today about what's going on here at Pheasant Branch and in the purchase that we made a few years ago that we refer to as the Acre Property. We just announced recently that the county is purchasing another, frankly, massive property that's just a once-in-a-lifetime gem and opportunity. Could you talk to us about that recent purchase and kind of the role you see that playing in these efforts?
That's right. We need to have these important natural resource areas throughout the county. We want to make sure that nature has room to grow. The more room we give nature, the more resilient it's going to be to climate change, and also the more it's going to help us battle climate change. So we just announced over a 600-acre purchase in the Sugar River watershed. That's going to add on to other purchases that we've made over the past several years. So we're ending up with a corridor of over 800 acres of public land that will be available for recreation, and it will also provide habitat for insects, animals, and will add to our carbon sequestration goals. You've
been the Director of Land and Water Resources now for about 5 years.
That's right.
Could you tell us a little bit about kind of your journey here? And I'm actually also curious about your journey that led you to your love of the outdoors. I mean, you grew up in Milwaukee, which is obviously a more kind of urban environment, and yet you are passionate about the outdoors. I know that you spend a lot of time outdoors, your family does. Could you tell us a little bit about where that passion came from and how that developed for you?
Yeah, you bet. So I did grow up right in the city of Milwaukee, utilizing Milwaukee County Parks, Havenwood State Forest, and it was in high school, Rufus King High School, where I was lucky enough to receive a scholarship for an Earthwatch expedition, and I traveled to Canada where we looked at the difference in forest structure of old growth forest versus one that had recently been logged, and that just really had a huge impact on me because the difference was stark.
Yeah.
And that inspired me then to study landscape architecture at UW-Madison. That's a great degree that you can do a lot of different things with. And then I was lucky enough to become a Dane County Parks intern while I was finishing up in school, and just fell in love with this connection between my personal life and my professional life, and being able to work on lands that are right here in our community.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so great. We're so fortunate to have you and frankly, so many of the people who work in your department. You've put together an amazing team, and the passion that exists among our staff. This is not just a job for you and these folks. It's your passion in life, and you really can see that in the reflection in the work. And I think that helps. It's almost contagious with our volunteers then, right? Because they're volunteering because they're passionate about it, and that's why we get such excellent results. Thanks so much for joining us and spending time with us today to talk about this wonderful conservancy. I can't tell you how much we appreciate the work that you and your staff and all the volunteers do to keep this and our other natural areas accessible and beautiful and ready for people to come and visit at any time.
Well, thank you, Joe. We love your support, and I love spending time in Dane County Parks.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us for this edition of Parisi in the Park. We look forward to seeing you next time.